Hi everyone, Darren Hunter here. Welcome to the Win Your Worth podcast. And today I really want to talk about some of the issues that I see all the time now. Having worked in property management offices now for 20 years, I've been a trainer and consultant for that long, you wouldn't believe it, right? These is this is some of the common issues I see all of the time, all of the common mistakes that I see happening in nearly all rent rolls. Now, one of the big issues straight off the bat is I see most bosses are volume focused. So, for example, most bosses would be happy to sign up, say, an owner with 10 properties, give them a big fat discount, would never calculate what it costs to manage every property, and then unknowingly taking those properties on an unprofitable level. And with all the same mistakes that they've made in their rent roll, they're adding unprofitability to unprofitability, which over a period of time, they start realizing they're not making much money in their rent roll. Their property managers are demanding to be paid well and asking for more. You know, they come in and have a chat to the boss, and they want training, they want quality systems, they want, uh, things like TARPI or Inspection Express, and all of those things are going to help them with their business and help them with more efficiency. The boss goes, now we haven't got the money, and it all goes bad. And this volume before profit is a real problem. And so I'm very much into it's about how much profit you're making, not how much turnover. If you're earning $1 million a year with your rent roll, but it's costing you $1 million, you're doing it all for free, and you shouldn't be doing that. What I believe is this: in most rent rolls, it's very simple. The bottom 30% of bad decisions are taken on board. Well, it's financially costing them, which means the expenses to run those properties are more than the income that they're getting. They've just never done the numbers. And so those 30 properties are taking a loss. The business is financially carrying them like a charity, if you want to call that. Then the next layer of 30% of properties, well, they're earning something, but they're being negated. That extra profit is being negated by that loss. And then you got that top 30% of properties that's earning something. So overall, the profit margin is still very thin, and it's not exciting. It doesn't excite bosses. They don't look at their rent roll and go, wow, I'm glad I've got this rent roll. It's earning really well. It's making good profit. It's getting the real estate business through the bad times or when the sales are down and all of those sort of things. Because in truth, a property management rent roll should be a profit powerhouse. And particularly with the businesses I work with, when I go in there and work with them over 1, 2, or 3 years, very commonly we can double or triple the profit margin by doing the very things that I talk about in this podcast. So today I want to go through a chapter in my book. It's conveniently located in chapter 11 of my book, Win Your Worth Secrets. If you haven't got this book, please get it. It teaches you exactly how in the last 20 years I've worked with businesses to get a lot more money with the same business they had before, simply by changing what people believe to be true around fees. If I said to you, you could be earning a lot more, you could be doing this fee or that fee, and this, but Darren, will be coming out. The big buts get in the way. But Darren, you can't do that. What's the management fee for? But Darren, no, we can't charge those fees because our rivals aren't charging those fees. We can't do it. So the big buts stop you earning more. And so to earn more, we've actually got to change what you believe to be true. And so that's why I wrote Win Your Worth Secrets. The book's free. All you've got to do is pay for shipping. Just go to winyourworthsecrets.com, read up to page 205. That'll change your life on what you believe about fees. And you'll be able to earn so much more from your rent roll, despite what you think right now. Because what you think right now isn't necessarily true. The book will reveal that to you. All right, let's go to chapter 11 and talk about 11 property types you must say no to if you want to be profitable, if you want to be healthy, if you want to have a rent roll that your staff are happy to wake up on a Monday morning and come to the office. Then this chapter is so important, because it's not just the properties that you sign up, it's the properties you say no to as well. If you remember the John West advert. It's not what they take on, it's what they say no to. It's what John West says no to that makes them the best when it comes to the quality of fish in that advert. So same rule applies. So let's just go through chapter 11 of the book. And firstly, low rent property. You might have a quality rent roll, all that sort of thing. And I'm going through spreadsheets. I do. And I look at spreadsheets, particularly when I'm working with officers to increase their fees. And I see, for example, a $700 a week property. They've got full fees. And then they've got a $300 a week property. And I say, what's that? Oh, that's a 1 bedroom flat. Why are you managing that? Well, it's a property. We have to manage it. Unknowingly, they're actually earning less than half the income that they are on other regular properties. And so low rent property, we need to have a financial benchmark. And when I work with people, my aim is to take them to $3,500 to $4,000 a year in total fee income, all fees, management fees, leasing fees, all other fees. Okay. And so you need to have a benchmark before you say no. You need to know how much is this property is gonna earn us minimum for the next 12 months if we sign it up now. Keep in mind, you'll be keeping the property for 5 years. And so really important that you don't look at it as business. You look at it, is it going to earn us enough? By the way, we know on average it takes around about, or it costs the average rent roll around about $1,850 per year, approximately, to manage every property. That is the cost per property per year in a staffed agency. Now, you may be running the rent roll on your own and you haven't got staff. You say, whoa, way to go, Darren, I'm profitable. Yeah, for now. But if you need to put on a property manager and you need to now pay them quality, and you're now realizing, oh my goodness me, I can't afford to pay myself now. Well, now you realize why you must be financially profitable and you don't hit the wall like a lot of rent rolls do, because they just went cheap at the start and now they can't afford to run it anymore and hit the wall. It's so common. So low rent property, how low do you go before you say no? And so I work with rent rolls. So for example, $600 a week is the average, say. They may not take on anything less than $450 a week before the numbers don't work anymore. Now you might go, well, Darren, we can't say no to a 2 bedroom unit. Okay, well, what management fee has to be, what number now does it have to be increased to make sure the numbers work? At the end of the day, all your bills are paid with money. Staff are paid with money. The money has to be there before you say yes. You're running a business, not a charity. You can't just be excited just because it's got a roof and a front door. It's a saying I use quite a bit. All right, low fee property. There you go. There's that same thing again, ties in with number one. You've got to make sure your fees are there. Again, it's about the income. All right. What's the minimum income before you say no? I'm happy to have a chat to you. If you want to book into my diary, just book in at getbetterfees.com. That's getbetterfees.com. I'm happy to give you 15 minutes and I can show you how to calculate the minimum fee income that you would earn on a property in the next 12 months. And that figure is really important for you to know, not the maximum fee income, the minimum that you would earn. Certainly based on, do your tenants move out every year, every 2 years, every 3 years on 3 years on average. If you do book in, just calculate how many final inspections you're doing a month. And that gives me a good idea of your turnover based or compared to your overall numbers as well. All right, so that's low fee property number 2. Number 3, low grade property. Again, taking on crap. Remember, you don't want to manage anything if it doesn't attract a good quality tenant. All right, it's a pretty simple equation. You should be able to say no to anything that doesn't attract a quality tenant. We only want quality tenants because they pay their rent on time and look after the property. We don't want anything less. Don't make the job any more difficult than what it actually is. All right, so low grade property, which means low quality, not in good state of repair. That's also a red flag for a C-class landlord property as well. Low socio-economic property. So when I'm in USA teaching, I leave that one out because people could try and sue me over it. But in Australia, we don't have that problem. But low socio-economic, again, a property in a low demographic area that attracts a low demographic tenant. Well, it may not fit a low fee property or a low rent property as well. All right. So it may not fit those parameters. They all seem to go hand in hand. All right. All right. Long distance property. So it may be a quality property. What if it takes an hour drive to get there? I remember many years ago working in a rent roll where we had a property manager that was managing 125 properties, but was always short of time. Now, she agreed to have her time um, analyzed every 15 minutes for 2 weeks. And so she was happy to every 15 minutes write down what she's doing, all right, what tasks she's done. And after 2 weeks, I took every 15-minute increments and put them into a spreadsheet. Very quickly, we worked out 26% of her time was sitting in a car. So she was working part-time with a full-time rent roll because the properties were spread all over the metro area. That's a real problem. You don't want a lot of long distance properties because it's downtime that you're not managing when you're driving. Okay. So you've got to keep that in mind. Now, if you insist you've got to take it on because a multiple property landlord has that, will increase the fees. But you've got to be in it for profit. All right. You can't be in it for charity. You can't simply be helping out and doing favors for people. You must be paid for it accordingly. I've even come across property managers that are driving 4 hours to properties. And when I said, well, I hope you're charging a lot more. Oh, no, our rents, our fees are normal. But I know the rents in that regional town are a lot less. So no one has ever got out a calculator and worked out any business sense. All right. And no wonder why they hit the problem when the boss is not interested in it because there's not enough money in it. They're just making really dumb business decisions along the way. All right. Now, C-class property. This is with a C-class landlord. Very quickly, 7 characteristics of a C-class landlord. Number 1 is they're over demanding, unreasonable, that could be controlling or bullying. All right. They are really difficult to handle. They take up a lot of your time. Number 2, they keep you busy with just frivolous requests and things like that, long-winded emails, and so much time you have to invest. Number 3, whatever the rent is, they want more. They want above market rent. Quality tenants are at market rent. Above that are not quality. It's scary, really, isn't it? Number 4 is whatever your fees are, they just have to have a big fat discount. And so if your fees are lower, they want a discount off that. If you're the cheapest in town, they still want a discount. It's just this discount, money-driven, money-focused people. Number 5 is they don't put any money into the property. So it gets run down. They're not willing to invest, put money back into the system to keep it upgraded. Again, quality tenants aren't attracted to properties like that. So again, it usually is a low quality property anyway. So you can see a low rent, low fee, difficult landlord, low quality property. All of those go hand in hand, don't they? So it's not hard to say no and know which ones to say yes to. So so we talked about number 5, not enough money into the property. Number 6 is they usually got a crap property. All right. Number 7 is that you generally have a low rent property as well. So you got low rent, which means your income's a lot lower, and they wanted a discount on that. If you've given it, it's a lot lower than low, and it's really bad, and they're taking up all your time. It's just bad business. You shouldn't be managing it. All right. There is no good reason to manage a property with an owner like that. If you go to the boss and the boss says, well, they might want to sell one day, well, they're probably going to be a C-class vendor as well and want a big fat discount and cause you problems. So you're better off just get rid of them. I always say they're like a packet of cigarettes and take years off your life. Okay, now an accidental investment property or where an owner has to be transferred away, now he's going to rent out his family home. They're not investors. They're not business minded. They're emotionally minded. They're emotionally connected to the property. You may have to question them severely about their thoughts around how the property is going to get looked after. Do you realize that it will not be looked after in the way that you look after it? Test them with those sort of words. Find out how they're feeling about legal, reasonable, fair wear and tear and understanding what that is. But don't just throw yourself into it just because it's business. There's no such thing as business. It's either good business or it's bad business, but there's not just business. And I can't, say enough the nightmares that I've seen where in the past we have taken on these sort of owners and then they move back in 2 or 3 years later with the emotion they've had with the property and their photographic memory and then go to war on the property manager. I've seen legal agreements written up to and compensation paid out just to make them stop harassing our staff. All right, it's bad. So you've got to keep that in mind. Accidental investment property landlords. They weren't meant to be investors. All right, wrong property. So this is really a wrong property type. So again, it could be a flat, it could be a unit or anything like that. Well, that comes back into low rent property, low fee property, all of those sort of things as well. So a wrong property type. I remember I had a block of 1 bedroom units that just attracted undesirables, just unemployed and unemployed males, and I wouldn't allow a female to live in that block because she would be harassed by the other men. So, wrong property type as well. You can see I've made all the mistakes, all right? I've done it, of course. This is how I've written it. It's written off all my mistakes. Okay, number 9, furnished property, the F word. Now, I love short-term stays. That's a completely different breed and species of long-term property management that we're talking about here. But anything with furniture and long-term rentals is bad news because quality tenants always have their own furniture. If you've got it furnished or part furnished, that can become a liability. Certainly for quality tenants because they've got their own stuff, but then always keep in mind tenants never look after other people's stuff. They only look after their own stuff, which means it's likely to get bumped, all those sort of things. You might have a quality fridge. Now it's got a big fat dent in it. Now the owner expects it to be replaced and the tribunal doesn't agree. And now you've got a big war. All right. It's just things like that you don't need. Unfurnished properties in long-term property, unless it's student accommodation, unless, of course, it's short-term accommodation with Airbnb or Booking.com or whatever. Okay. All right, number 10. So this is really now getting into the dregs of my experience. These are the rules that I came up with in the latter part of my property management days because I had my fingers burnt so many times. So eviction property or other people's monkeys. So if you got a landlord comes in, they're self-managing, they've been managing it for however long, the tenant's 3 months behind in the rent, they want you to go and clean up the mess. Well, I've done that too many times and know that it doesn't really work very well. All right, you end up putting a lot of work in. The tenant usually shoots through, and if you can then get it cleaned up and it becomes quality property, way to go. But a lot of the time, it's a huge amount of work between now and then, yeah. It's just something that I just learned to say no to. And then leasing only. So this is where you get a self-managing landlord come along and they want you to find them a tenant and then hand it back. And I'm thinking, far out. Quality tenants, are not easy to come by. Why give them away? You want to keep them in a full management, not give them to someone else. But here's another reason why I say it. Let's just say you find them a good tenant, hand it back, the owner's happy, tenant gets behind in the rent. You see, if they get behind in the rent with you, you're onto it 1, 2, or 3 days, right? And you can early intervention, bang, and you're on top of it, and the problem's fixed. The owner, he's not practicing early intervention. It might be 1, 2, or 3 weeks before he does anything. It might be more, and then before you know it, the tenant has fallen into the money trap. They can't afford to catch up now. They've used it. And before you know it, they're headed for eviction. And then there's an eviction. And now the owner thinks not only did he have a bad tenant, he had a bad agent that gave him the bad tenant as well. So again, a reason why letting onlys, why do you want to do letting only? As a self-managing landlord in Australia, we don't, I don't really like self-managing landlords because there's only like 10 to 15% of properties self-managing landlords doing it because of the control reasons largely, or they got the time, or they don't trust agents or whatever. In New Zealand, I know the percentages are a lot higher with self-managing landlords, but the more legislation coming in New Zealand, the less landlords want to self-manage. So New Zealanders, of course, legislation's a good thing. In America, legislation's a good thing. All right, it makes it more difficult for the management. Now you can be the professional to take it over. All right, so there's 11 property types. So I just really encourage you to get the book, Win Your Worst Secrets. Read up to page 205. It will excite you. It will show you how much more money is to be made in property management if you're willing to change what you believe to be true. I'm an absolute believer. If you attend one of my sessions, you're probably going to get you all stand up and make an oath that you're no longer going to do property management anymore, and you're only going to do profitable property management. All right. There's so much money to be made, but so many businesses doing it wrong. Hope you got something out of today. You're welcome to book into my diary at any time. Getbetterfees.com for a chat. Join us in our masterminds as well. We would love you into our masterminds, our top growth mastermind. We've got a BDM coach mastermind, and I will teach you about fees in there as well. A lot of growth strategy skills to be a quality BDM. To do that, you'll need to speak to Dennis. Book into his diary at growmyrentroll.com. That's growmyrentroll.com. That will put you directly into his diary. Have a chat. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I have. Get the book. Let's do profitable property management. Let's stop being silly. The job's tough enough. Let's make it profitable as well. Let's make it worth it. Take care. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Cheers.